Hello, everyone, and welcome to our little show here. I'm joined by Justin McElroy. I'm Russ Frushtick, and we have a special guest in the form of Mike McWhertor, who is here to talk about the very new, very interesting Call of Duty game, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Hello, Mike.
Oh, hi, Russ. How's it going?
Mike, I brought you on here today to talk about this game because it is by far the most hated game, I think, in the history of YouTube. The trailer was downvoted so many times, I think they had to turn off the ability to downvote. It was despised, and now that you've seen it firsthand, do you think that hatred was justified?
No, absolutely not. I actually think it's one of potentially the more interesting Call of Duty games of the past few years. I can understand how that game might not present very well in trailer form, especially with that god-awful David Bowie cover. I might have snuck a little thumbs down in there after hearing that, but I think the game looks pretty strong, and I think one of the reasons that people were wary of it or felt negatively about it is that it's like straight up space Star Wars shooter game, and I think that the audience is getting a little fatigued on some of that futuristic warfare stuff. But in a strange way, I feel like this is maybe one of the more grounded Call of Duty games in a while. And it actually does have a little bit of a World War II era vibe to it, and that may be influenced by the fact that the level I saw takes place in Geneva. So you're kind of, you're on these cobblestone streets and you're going into these basements of these old houses while all this chaos and war is happening up above you.
Sure.
It does give you this impression of like things that you might have seen in a World War II movie. And while there is some pretty fascinating out there futuristic technology, it really is kind of like an infantry war.
You mentioned sort of a more grounded experience, almost World War II-esque. So no double jumping, correct? Like it's all like boots on the ground, traditional, like Modern Warfare era combat, correct?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is that. It is, kind of that classic Call of Duty, aim down sights, throw grenades over some stuff, stop and pop kind of shooting. But then there are some kind of, like you can call in some airstrikes from these spaceships called Jackals, and you can actually hack into some of the, mechanized infantry enemies, and you can basically hack into them and then take them over. So you can either play as them, or you can cause those mechanized soldiers to self-destruct. So you're basically turning them into, walking grenades. But it's looking at like kind of Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3, where the technology was like almost indistinguishable from magic. Like you could basically cast fireballs of swarming bees on enemies, and Treyarch had some technological justification for that existing. This is a little bit more like this is just straight up gunplay mixed with some dogfighting that happens to take place in outer space.
Yeah. Do you feel like the space elements are like, one of the Halo games, I think it was Halo Reach, had like the space level, and there's this moment, and it's like, quote, exotic gameplay where it's like very different. Do you think for this Call of Duty it's like much more ingrained in each of the levels, or do you think it's like maybe a 50-50 split? Did you get any sense of that?
So, I got a taste of that. It sounds like there is going to be a lot of space dogfighting. Like you are going to get into your spacecraft, and it didn't look too dissimilar from like an Eve Valkyrie or a Colony Wars, if that's your speed.
Yeah, I thought it was a Battlestar game when we were watching it initially. So
yeah, and those fights, I think they are informed visually by Battlestar Galactica, the TV series, and so yeah, I think that's part of it. But then, I think a lot of people saw during Sony's press conference, there are also those kind of like, infantry versus infantry battles on space wreckage and on derelict spaceships and active, Star Destroyers, for lack of a better word. where you can go in and you can breach them and you can scuttle the ship and you can seize technology and weapons from them. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I think there's also going to be some just like, hey, let's go to the surface of the moon Titan and let's have a traditional boots on the ground Call of Duty fight.
Yeah.
So, and in talking to the creators of it, they were really looking at some classic war stories and war movies, World War II, Vietnam, kind of like modern military movies as influence. They weren't looking to, Star Wars or Halo or anything like that. They actually also did reference the kind of like James Cameron Aliens, space battle influence, which is like Vietnam era helmets and weapons just kind of like slightly tweaked because they want to have this familiar icons and items and weapons, set in an unfamiliar space.
But no aliens.
No aliens, as far as I can tell.
Sure.
Yeah, the guys who are all fighting are all they're all human, with the exception of the mechanized infantry that they have at their disposal.
Does that seem like a missed opportunity? I'd love to kill some aliens.
Yeah, we haven't had enough opportunities to kill aliens in video games.
I'd love to finally put boot to ass with some aliens rather than humans.
I said this a while ago, but I want Call of Duty to just get real super weird and like have witchcraft and like eldritch horrors invading Earth. That's where I want this series to go.
Can you understand? We're not getting questions, but we are told people are arguing in the comments about Call of Duty, Infinite Warfare. Can you understand how, if you are a longtime fan of this series, how and especially since Battlefield is moving way, way, way far away from where the series has been previously to like the modern military combat. Can you understand for a longtime Call of Duty fan how this might leave them a little cold, or is it worth them sticking around and seeing how it compares to what they're looking for?
Yeah, I get it. Like I think when you start to look at the evolution of these games and how much farther and farther they push into the future, they start to feel a little bit indistinguishable. And we're trading, superpowered exoskeletons for, military magic, for robots and space dogfights, and it's like, okay. I mean, some of this just feels like very well-trodden territory, but I don't know. I feel like from what I've seen of it, I'm actually more interested in this Call of Duty than some of the other games that they put out recently. So I totally understand, but I think, when Infinity Ward showed the demo that they showed at Sony's press conference, I think it caught a lot of people by surprise. They weren't expecting that this was a Call of Duty game, especially with that ship-to-ship combat and this kind of crazy grappling hook gameplay that we're seeing right now. So I don't know. I feel like people might warm up to it after they get over the initial shock of, hey, we're taking Call of Duty to space, which just sounds kind of goofy on its face.
Sure.
Yeah. They didn't speak to multiplayer at all, did they?
No, and I think that they're going to hold on to that for a while. They were kind of hinting that wasn't going to be really unveiled until September when their Call of Duty XP event is happening. Which they're always kind of changing how they market these things.
Sure.
And how they show it to the press and to the public. So I don't know. I think that because they've got some creative people from Naughty Dog working on this game. They're really focusing now on the single player campaign because I think they're trying something a little bit different. And they're just gonna have to hold tight.
Is the space stuff, is that on rails or is that fully in control of the ship?
No, you've got full control of the ship. You can kind of switch your gun types. You can deploy flares for evasive maneuvers. You have like thrusters. It all seems very friendly. I'm pretty sure that they're doing some kind of a little bit of guiding and a little bit of auto aiming, as it were, for your ship. But based on what I've seen of it, you do have control over your ship, and you can really get in there and mess around. There's definitely no on rails thing.
Sure. Last question for you, Mike. Did you broach the subject of ghosts at all?
No, I didn't, and because I think a lot of the people who were there, kind of leading that studio at the time during Ghosts, which was obviously a period of transition for Infinity Ward.
Sure.
They're not there anymore, and I think that's a studio that's changed considerably over the past 10 years or so. And this is obviously not a continuation of Ghosts.
Yeah.
They're kind of
Thank
charting
God.
their own path. And but I think the thing that's interesting about this game is I think they're setting up an interesting villain, an interesting opposing force, and I can see them treating this a lot less of a one-off like Ghosts was.
Well, Ghost was not a one-off, for the record. That was not their initial intention.
Well, right. I mean, I'm sure that they wanted to continue it, but it seems like that they're establishing a pretty good foundation for this to be an independent series.
Totally. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for joining us, and thank you guys at home for watching. We will be here all week with lots of video content. Check out facebook.com/Polygon, youtube.com/Polygon, polygon.com/Polygon for Polygon. And that'll do it for us. I'm Russ Frushtick for Justin McElroy. This has been a nice look at Call of Duty. Thanks again, Mike. Adios.
Adios now.
Yeah.